Hello friends and welcome to Tattoo Shop Talk. Today we will do yet another cartridge needle review, and this time it's Blue Bird. And now skippable intro. Welcome to Tattoo Shop Talk, which is sort of weekly web show where we do tattoo shop related stuff like tips, tricks, reviews, some tattoo videos and longer podcast type of talks. So if that's something for you, press subscribe button and don't miss out on the new stuff. Back to the needles, Blue Bird needles. You might be familiar with them in packages like this, or you might be familiar with them in packages like this, which is some samples that you can get in some tattoo conventions where the lovely people from the company give these sample kits out, which is nice from them. So first I started with this and then I got this thing. And I will review needles as I usually do. I will focus on, first of all, it's like that general thing like price per performance, and next thing would be comfort of use, obviously the quality, but quality is kind of sketchy to judge unless it's really bad or amazing. But I haven't seen much of both ends, so most of the times they all land in that middle ground. And then price, of course, and then safety, which I think is important. And by that I mean, do they fall apart? Do they have membrane and that kind of stuff? So let's start with price. Price-wise, they fall in that generic range, that middle ground. So they're not the high-end super expensive stuff, and they're not like the super cheap ones, which probably affects the quality. So if you go at the far end, you would never expect much from them. And I think the price is important in that area where you're like, where you do maybe more smaller pieces. Because if you do big session a day, it doesn't really matter if that needle costs a bit more or a bit less, because you use a bunch of needles and it's in that one price. But when you do a lot of smaller pieces, then if you look into numbers, then it's kind of like, okay, it's actually a big difference if the two is really like on the cheaper side, and then you use, let's say, 2 cartridge needles, and that affects a certain percentage of the price. So that's where this generic area is important. And by quality, why it's important, because I'm not talking how good the needle performs in work, like how good it pulls line or makes shadows, but if it jams, if it breaks, if something happens, then you can add expense in double for that one needle. So that's the kind of quality and price thing. Anyway, as long as I work, haven't had like much issues with them, or I would say haven't had any. So we got through the price. Price is pretty average for this type of generic needle brands, and that's all right. As for comfort of use, it might seem funny, but I really pay attention to the way they're packed, because this is my favorite type of packaging, because once you have to start to open them or open sides and pull things out, things get messy. This type of things you can stack, you can open every of these drawer type things, and this is my favorite type of packaging. Also, needles themselves, they have this nice fold where you can quickly grab it and have it open, because some of the needles you really have to pick those corners, and when you have gloves on it might be an issue, or you have to sort of break the side off or all sorts of funky stuff, or push it through the thing. So in terms of comfort of use, it's fine. It's absolutely perfect. It's what I expect. Obviously the packaging is not the high-end stuff, it's a bit softer, but the system works. You can see what's in it, you can stack them, you can organize them, and that's a nice thing. Price is good, comfort of use is good. Also, as for comfort of use, I would point out that there's this thing where there's a different color coatings at the back of the needles. When you work with them and you have multiple cartridges and you pull them out of the machine and you put them on wherever you put them, you can see that okay, this one was like a shader, this one was magnum, this one was liner, and that. So that's good that they are not all the same. And also, as you can see, there's black for round shaders, there's green for one type of magnum, there's white for different type of magnum, there's transparent for one type of liner. Pretty easy to open. And on the back side you can see the number of needles, so it's a flat 17, which is also nice if you have multiple liners or if you have multiple magnums. At the worst case you can pick it up and be like, oh okay, this one is 17. So that's all nice and beautiful. The next step, safety. They obviously have a membrane, and that's something that they point out as well in the like promo type of stuff. I haven't had an issue with like any leakage. I worked with them. I had all these messy shadings and dippings and all that stuff, and you can see that cartridge is like all full with stuff and nothing was on a backside. I can do my favorite drip in test. Let's do that. Paper towel, cartridge, and some juicy stuff. So let's try to get the stuff inside and not on outside, so we can see is there anything coming out from the inside of cartridge. You can check one of the previous videos where I tested some of the needles without membrane, and you can see how dramatic is the difference. There was example I think from Quadron, and it just leaks right through it, and this one is full with liquids and you can push and nothing is even showing. So membrane works. Obviously there's a discussion how long it lasts and all that, but I think you would feel if it breaks. So that's that. Membrane is there, that it doesn't leak. In long term, if anyone had issues, please let me know in the comment sections, because I know that they can break, but that's something you feel. Obviously how much damage is done, that's a different story. But as we can see here now, nothing is coming out of it just like that. And it comes out beautifully off the other end. Another thing that is mentioned in the promo materials, apart from the safety, that there's some sort of carbon coated tips or something along them lines. I don't know if it's a big deal or if it's some standard things that every needle have and they just pointed it out. If it's pointed out, I'll mention it. It's something to do with carbon coating or something similar. If I'm wrong, I put it in the description what it really is. So that's one thing that is mentioned there. And another thing I look at is just the selection in general. And with these needles, as you could see on the drop test thing, there was a Magnum, flat Magnum 17. Like a squarish one, and there's all sorts of options. You can get all sorts of ridiculous 0.8 size 9 magnums, which is just ridiculously small for a 9 magnum. You can have 1005 round liners, which is pretty standard thing. There's a ridiculously small liners, which is 0.8 3 liner tight, I would say. And then you have the bigger stuff, 27 round magnums. Then you have the regular 3 liners. You have regular 11 magnums. That's 15. That's a regular 9 liner. So you get all sorts of stuff. I have not noticed that they would have hollow liners, which I love a lot, but their shaders and their liners do a good job, so maybe there's no need for them. So overall, I like these needles. From my experience, I can say they work just fine. And one thing I wanted to point out, that regular 3 liner seemed more steady than any other brand I tried so far, and I tried many. Maybe it was just that particular situation, but the needle seemed that it's just dead on. It didn't have any wobble or anything, so stability works fine. And I get a lot of these walk-in type things, which is the Pinterest tattoos, and those thin lines matter there. That was a pleasant surprise for this type of needles. In my opinion, it's really okay brand, and I would recommend to try it. And another thing that I find really important, at least in my opinion, is communication with supplier. And with this particular one, it's been really good. Like, if I have any questions, they'll get back to me. Also, if you make order big enough, they'll ship it to you for free. This particular supplier, they have needles and they also have all sorts of aftercare products. And that is one thing that is not that common in Denmark, because in some companies, the more you add, it ends up being more expensive shipping. So if you are from the Denmark's region or around, I would recommend to look into it, because it might work out really good for you, because it's that price is okay. Then if you make big enough order, you get that shipping. So that's something to keep in mind. And now question to you, if you are tattooing with cartridge needles and you're looking into all this mid-range type of cartridges, which is your favorite brand? Because everyone is always saying like Cheyenne, Da Vinci and all that stuff, but let's say for a walking type of shop, for a street shop, what would be your favorite brand, and the brand that is not like the cheapest one, but it's actually the best, and why? So leave that down below in the comment section so we can all learn and have a little discussion. Otherwise, check all the links in the description for the brand, for the supplier, and leave your thoughts, press like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and see you in a future episodes. Peace!